All right, Eddie Hearn loses another purse bid to Frank Warren, Queensberry Promotions. This time, the Andrade Zach Parker purse bid. Now, as I've said in another video, I think that Eddie Hearn's priority right now, in terms of his budget money, is securing a deal with Canelo, which he's now done. And I think that might have contributed to why he was losing all these purse bids, because he really wasn't trying to jump out the gate. You know, he really wasn't trying to do anything too extravagant by way of a purse bid and compete too ferociously over fights like Andrade Parker, because again, Canelo is his priority right now. Will that have any bearing on the way this fight goes, Andrade versus Parker? Andrade stepping up to 168 pounds. You can see here what the purse bid was. The winning bid by Queensberry was just under $2 million, 1.8. And the matchroom bid was 1.75. Interestingly here, Andrade is entitled to 65% of the purse bid, with Parker receiving just 35%. So that should please Demetrius Andrade. Even though his team, his promoter didn't win the bid, he's still getting the lion's share. And remember, this is not a world title fight. This is a WBO interim title fight. So neither guy is the WBO interim champion at 168 pounds right now. I'm assuming that the reason Andrade is getting a larger percentage in this situation is because he's got a higher ranking, perhaps because he was champion in the weight division below. I'm not sure exactly how all that works out. Nevertheless, it is what it is. Now, the fight itself, Andrade is a much slicker, more crafty, more athletically gifted, faster fighter than Zach Parker. With that being said, Zach Parker has looked strong in recent fights. He's looked powerful. Is Andrade maybe slipping a little bit? He didn't look that great against Liam Williams. Again, he starts fast, Andrade. He always does. Drops a lot of people early. But as the fight progressed, he got hurt himself. He looked ragged. He looked sloppy. And he did manage to get a 12-round decision, but he didn't do it anywhere near as clinically, for example, as Eubank Jr. did. Perhaps he fought a much better version of Liam Williams, or at least a more durable version of Liam Williams. Maybe it was those Andrade left hands and right hands that actually took Liam Williams's punch resistance away from him and made him a softer opponent for Eubank Jr. by way of punch resistance. Of course, Liam Williams still very tough mentally, but his punch resistance didn't seem to be as good. So anyway, the fight, Zach Parker had a very controversial fight a few years ago with, what was it? Was a guy called Darryl Williams or Darryl Wilson or Darryl Williamson or something like that. He fought a black guy who, please, if he's out there listening, no disrespect, I can't remember his name, but he was a British fighter. And he was one of these guys who tries to emulate Mike Tyson's style, the Costamado Mike Tyson style. And he absolutely dominated Zach Parker in that fight. And somehow, Zach Parker got the decision. It was one of the worst robberies I've seen. It is very seldom I use the word robbery. You guys should know this by now. But that fight right there, Zach Parker against that little short black guy, that was a horrible robbery. Horrible. Zach Parker never won that fight. And in fact, the opponent was so devastated by being robbed in such a blatant way, I don't think he's fought since. It left such a bitter taste in his mouth. He put so much effort into that fight, into training, and I guess all the things that were going on in his life to get robbed like that. It was unbelievable. Parker clearly is beatable, right? Because he got beat in that fight, even though it's not official. But Demetrius Andrade doesn't fight like that. Demetrius Andrade is a slick fighter. He's unlikely to put that kind of pressure on Parker. In fact, I'd imagine it's going to be the other way around with Parker putting pressure on Andrade. So, yeah. Is Andrade even going to think of trying to box that way against Zach Parker, trying to apply pressure and, look at that fight he had, which he blatantly lost, and try and take some pointers from it? I doubt it. I think Andrade's going to do what he normally does, which is the slick, unorthodox boxing, moving around, jumping in with power shots. That's really Andrade's signature, is he's a southpaw who doesn't rely on his jab as much as typical southpaws. Instead, he jumps in with power shots, very unorthodox shots, big, wide looping left hands, straight left hands sometimes, short right hooks, uppercuts. He loves jumping in with all these power shots. It's kind of a little reminiscent of Naseem Hamed, although not Naseem Hamed was a switch hitter, and pound for pound, Naseem Hamed hit a lot harder than Andrade. But in terms of what he tries to do, it's similar to Naseem Hamed, because Naseem Hamed used to do that a lot. Naseem Hamed could jab very, very well when he wanted to, but in most of his fights, he didn't jab that much. He would just move around and look to jump in with these power shots. And that's what Andrade does a lot. So, yeah, that is what that is. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below about this fight, how you think it will go, whether you think Zach Parker's actually going to win. Will he be too big and strong for Andrade, too young? But is Zach Parker younger than Andrade? I haven't even checked. For some reason, I think he is in my head. Maybe young, if I don't want to use that word, let's use the word fresh. Is he too fresh for Demetrius Andrade? Let me know in the comments.